We have some news coming in at this hour. This is a huge development in the Israel-Hezbollah war, where Israel has claimed Hezbollah chief is dead. Nasrallah won't terrorize the world anymore. Israel claims a big kill after the strikes in Beirut. Nasrallah is fine though, says Hezbollah. It's a big suspense over the Hezbollah chief. Nasrallah, dead or alive, is a big question. Israel has claimed that he is dead, eliminated. Hezbollah says that is not true and he is safe. It's in fact a claim that has been made by Israel in a statement where they have in fact gone on to say that the chief of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, has been killed. They've targeted Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah in a series of airstrikes that has taken out Hasrat Nasrallah, but this is being said right now that he has been killed, though it is being claimed otherwise by the Hezbollah, saying that the Hezbollah's chief is still alive. That is what Hezbollah says. Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah, Israeli leader, Hezbollah leader, in fact, killed in an Israeli attack, where the Israeli airstrikes have targeted the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah in Beirut. Hezbollah claims that Hassan Nasrallah is alive. Israel Defense Forces have made a statement saying that Hassan Nasrallah will no longer be able to terrorize the world. Nasrallah, we know, was the target of the Israeli strikes conducted on Friday in southern suburbs of Beirut. Geeta Mohan getting in more details. Israel has made a statement, made this announcement formally that Hassan Nasrallah will no longer be able to terrorize the world, Geeta, and that he has been eliminated. Hezbollah claims otherwise.
Well, that's right. These are claims versus counterclaims, Neha. We will have to get a confirmation from the Hezbollah side or the Iranian side as well. For now, they're saying that Hassan Nasrallah is safe. But that's the case of calling any leader's death out so early is not something we've seen in the past as well. They do keep it to themselves till the very last moment. But in fact, on Ismail Haniyeh, Iran was very quick in the time frame that one gives, very quick to really come out and admit to the fact that that Ismail Haniyeh indeed was assassinated on Iranian soil. Having said that, this is again one organization's word against the other, but we are talking about the Israeli Defense Forces. They also have not confirmed in the past any killing or taken responsibility or admitted to the killing of any individual unless and until it's absolutely confirmed. Look at the tweet. It's not just the idea of announcing that Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of terrorist organization Hezbollah and its founders, along with Ali Karchi, the commander of South Front in Hezbollah, and other commanders have been killed. They actually have come out and said, and that's a very cryptic yet telling tweet where the Israel Defense Forces have come out and said Hassan Nasrallah will no longer be able to terrorize the world.
Right. It's a statement, a strong statement that is coming from Israel today. Be with us, Geeta. Sarit Zehavi has been looking and tracking at Hezbollah very closely for years together, joining us right now from Tel Aviv. Thank you for your time this afternoon. I want to begin by asking you, how big is this a setback? Given that that Hassan Nasrallah had been, the commander of Hezbollah for years together. And this is the confirmation that is coming from Israel, though Hezbollah continues to be in denial.
First, I must say that I'm not in Tel Aviv. I'm in northern Israel, 9 kilometers from Lebanon, and I'm speaking to you from my bomb shelter. We already had to run to shelter 3 times this morning. Now to your question. The killing of Hassan Nasrallah, since it happened right after elimination of many rockets and launchers of Hezbollah in Lebanon, after it happened in killing also other seniors of Hezbollah, this is a huge blow to the main proxy of Iran in the region. And I can tell you that from a very personal level, I feel much more protected this morning, even though I know it will take time until the fire will stop completely towards Israel. We should look at not at the next few weeks, we should look at the next few years. Hassan Nasrallah was responsible to the death of many people around the globe, not only Israelis. And it was very important that any terrorist around the globe would know that this would be his fate if he is killing people that believe in democracy and believe in values of human life and human rights. So I am saying that it will take a little bit more time to see quietness. I believe more military actions of the IDF, we will see them on the way, because clearly from this morning constant shooting towards Israel from Lebanon by Hezbollah, the work is not completely done. But the fact that Hezbollah is no longer a huge terrorist army, this is a game changer with regard to the strategic threat that it posed on Israel right until yesterday.
All right, be with us. In fact, Geeta Mohan, our Foreign Affairs Editor, also stands connected with us. Geeta, if you'd like to come in, please.
Well, yes, Sarit, the fact that Hezbollah's chief, Israeli Defense Forces have announced has been assassinated or killed. What next for Hezbollah? After Nasrallah, the fact that IDF has almost eliminated the second rung and now the chief gone, what next for Hezbollah? Is there a leadership in line? Are there other commanders who can actually take over? Being a Hezbollah expert, what is your opinion and assessment of the situation right now?
Yes, there is a question whether the head of the Executive Council of Hezbollah, who is also a member in the Military Council, Executive Council is the civilian branch of Hezbollah, and the Jihadi Council is the military branch. And there is one person, his name is Hashem Safi Adin, he's one of the leaders of this organization, and he's a person who is involved in the military and civilian infrastructures of this project. And we don't know yet whether he was killed with Nasrallah or not. So if he is still alive, he was marked as the successor of Nasrallah even before the war. We know that Ali Karki, who is the head of the southern front of Hezbollah against Israel, was also killed with Nasrallah, which was also a very prominent figure and well experienced for many years in his position. So this was also very important. So the amount of people that can replace him is with experience of leading a big organization declined in the past few weeks. And we should wait and see, because it will take a little bit time, because since they were underground, it will take a little bit more time to understand who else was killed with him, to understand who else is on the way, because it is clear that Israel made a decision to make sure that Hezbollah is not going to recover and pose the strategic threat to the state of Israel anymore. And part of that is taking off its leadership.
Right. Sarit, also, this entire operation, whether it's from the pager explosions, the walkie-talkies, eliminating the commanders, and now looking at a very precise strike at the Hezbollah headquarters, exactly where Hassan Nasrallah's bunker was. It does require intelligence, a penetration of intelligence within Lebanon, within Hezbollah. In your appreciation, how much of Israeli intelligence penetration do you see in this entire operation within the Hezbollah?
I don't think you need my words in this. You see for yourself. All the operations that you just mentioned indicate years of work. I think that you can see even the difference between Lebanon and Gaza, that the IDF was preparing in the past decade, and maybe even more, to a scenario of a full-scale war with Hezbollah, because we knew that Hezbollah went through major changes in the past years, and that Hezbollah had a plan to invade to the Galilee and occupy the Galilee. Hezbollah had tens of thousands of rockets that were hidden in the Lebanese villages, including rockets that are accurate, and Nasrallah himself threatened to launch these rockets to the civilian and military infrastructures of Israel. So the IDF was preparing to defend the state of Israel from this kind of scenario, in opposed to Gaza, that we were surprised. And I think that here, what is happening, it's a very good example of what happens, how many Israelis are getting killed when we are surprised, and how many Israelis are getting killed when we are taking the initiative against our enemies before they use their full capabilities. Having said that, again, as a resident of northern Israel, I am under constant fire since this war started in October 8 in the north. Like, we had more than 3,000 attacks of Hezbollah constantly every day since this war started, and Hezbollah was offered a ceasefire by the Americans many times, and it just refused.
Right. Sarat, in terms of the threat to Israel when it comes to these organizations, now keeping and comparing capability and proximity in mind, was Hamas the bigger target for Israel or Hezbollah?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the last question.
Keeping proximity and capability of the organizations such as the Hamas and Hezbollah, which was a bigger threat or is a bigger threat to Israel?
Hezbollah was much a bigger threat to Israel than Hamas, since Hezbollah was more the fighters themselves were more experienced. They fought in Syria and they won in Syria. That's one thing. Second, the arsenal of rockets was much bigger and much more advanced, and technology was much more advanced with that. We talk about, as I've said, the precision-guided missiles in the hand of Hezbollah. In the current war, Hezbollah launched thousands of drones and anti-tank missiles against us, which were a problem with our aerial defense systems. Anti-tank missiles we cannot even intercept. So it definitely posed a much bigger threat than Hamas. But Hamas took the initiative, and that's why there was a different outcome.
Sarat, coming back to Hassan Nasrallah, now IDF has announced his death, but Iran and Hezbollah continue to maintain that he is safe. In this entire claim versus counterclaim, what really happens from here on? Because the admissions when there's a death comes from the Iranian and Hezbollah quarters also soon enough. But this time around, it seems like there are differences in the voices that are coming from Israel and what we're hearing from Lebanon and Iran.
Look, I don't know if the Iranian general, who is, again, the one who replaced the previous one that was killed in Damascus, there are rumors now that he was killed as well in this meeting with Nasrallah. And by the way, we can also assume that they were not meeting just to drink coffee. I don't know whether he was killed. It matters if an Iranian personality was killed in this attack or not. But I can say that the supreme leader of Iran faces a dilemma, because this was the most professional and the most important and almost a partner. Hezbollah and Nasrallah himself, as a figure, were almost a partner to the Iranian ayatollahs. And now that this is gone, and again, not gone completely, still launching rockets at us, but this is gone with regard to the strategic capabilities, Iran has a dilemma whether to switch its attention to cultivate others, maybe in Syria, maybe in Yemen, maybe in West Bank, to push them forward against Israel, or to just arm them, or to go to a temporary ceasefire. But I want to make it very clear. Iran, ayatollahs of Iran are not going to change their ideology, and they are not going to change their motivation to eliminate the state of Israel. This is part of the hardcore of what they believe in. So if we will see any negotiations for ceasefire now that will be initiated by Iran or pushed by Iran, we should assume that this is a temporary approach, a tactical approach, in order to preserve the capabilities that still remain either in the hands of Hezbollah and others. And that's why I think that now it's important that any ceasefire we get will be enforced with something effective that will bring us security and will make sure that these militias, whether it's Hamas, whether it's Hezbollah, whether elsewhere, are not going to recover and become even bigger armies than what they used to be.
Right. Two more questions before I let you go. One, what do you think is going to be the next course of action? There is a lot of regrouping. The communication links for Hezbollah absolutely decimated and destroyed. What's the next course of action? Where do you see this war headed? Because this is now not just a seven-front war for Israel, but the Lebanon-Israel war front itself is big enough and quite large for Israel to be focused on. So what's the next course of action that you see or foresee from the Hezbollah side?
From the Hezbollah side, I think they will try to continue to launch the rockets as we've seen this morning. But they also have an economy munition, meaning after all the attacks of the IDF against the storages of rockets, they are not capable of launching, and they don't want to launch every day massive amounts, because that way they will finish the rockets very quickly. I think they would strive to create some kind of a war of attrition as much as possible, but at the same time I must say that there is a lot of confusion now in Hezbollah, and decisions were not taken yet, and it's very soon to evaluate what will happen. I think all options are on the table, including tries of infiltration, maybe not only from Lebanon, maybe also from Syria. There is presence of Hezbollah, Lebanese Hezbollah in Syria and the Israeli-Syrian border as well. So this is also an option, and since we cannot know, and Hezbollah itself haven't decided yet, the IDF here is in high preparedness and alert to any of these scenarios.
Right, Sarit, final question to you. Prime Minister Netanyahu cut short his US visit and is returning to Israel. The situation certainly is going to escalate when it comes to the West Asian crisis. But the international community, particularly leaders from the Arab world, while there's no love lost there for Hezbollah, have really come out and stood against Israeli action. They have been insisting, including your allies, the United States of America, have come out and said that this escalation was really not something that the international community was looking at and looking for, and continue to seek ceasefire. In such a scenario, where do you think Israel stands, and where do you think, or how do you think Netanyahu is going to react? He has been unrelenting in his action against Hezbollah and Hamas. Will he reconsider his decisions? Because he has become a little unpopular in certain quarters within Israel as well.
Sorry, I cannot relate to politics in Israel. It's too complicated in 2 minutes conversation. In general, I am on those who believe that it doesn't matter which of our leaders, eventually they all want the security of Israel, and when these decisions are being made at these levels, this is not something that politics get into the room. I still believe in that. I hope I'm right, but I cannot say more than that.
Sarit Zehavi, thank you so much for joining us here and speaking to us.
Thank you.
Geeta continues to be with us. What next, Geeta, is the big question. If at all the claims that have been made by Israel are true, that indeed the chief of Hezbollah has been eliminated, what next in the war?
Sarit was just saying, Sneha, this is going to really escalate should there be a second in command. There is a system, even within the Hezbollah, where they do have certain commanders who are still there. And if they have not been eliminated so far, you will be seeing barrages of rockets being fired into Israel. Sarit Zehavi herself was speaking from a bomb shelter. Clearly shows that those living very close to the Lebanon border will have to be very careful and vigilant about where they are, and that bomb shelters across Israel now have opened up. There are many areas where shelters only open up when the security scenario becomes as serious as is today. So we are looking at Hezbollah trying to regroup, recover. It is going to take a while, and the window for Israel during that time only increases to ensure that they continue with their precision strikes. Like Sarit was saying, and like we've been discussing this, Sneha, through yesterday and through a few weeks now, the level of intelligence gathering and intelligence penetration that Israel has shown is astounding. That they have penetrated, that they have mapped out and intercepted consignments that were going to Lebanon is one phase. But the fact that they've penetrated well within Hezbollah to know exactly where a commander is. There are some reports that are coming in. Wall Street Journal filed a report saying that when Fawad Shukra was to be eliminated, he was taken from the second floor office to the seventh floor residence, and that's when the precision strike happened. So there are insiders who are moving the leaders to the exact same place where the precision strike was to take place, or where the Israelis had planned it. That kind of penetration is something that Hezbollah now will have to one look at. And who do they trust? Who can they not trust? Is going to become a major factor within the Hezbollah. Even if you're looking at the second rung, the big story today is that Hassan Nasrallah, according to IDF for now, it has been killed, has been eliminated. This is not just the biggest blow to Hezbollah, but to the entire seven-front war that we are seeing against Israel, because a lot of them depend on Hezbollah. Iran depends on Hezbollah because of, again, the lack of proximity with Israel. They do require the entire base to be closer to Israel, which is, again, the Lebanon-Israel front. And that is controlled by Hezbollah. So the biggest, strongest proxy or ally of Iran in the region has been Hezbollah when it comes to fighting the Israelis. And for Hassan Nasrallah to be eliminated is one of the biggest losses for not just Hezbollah, but for this entire axis, so to say, that is working or fighting Israel.
With us, I'm just going to come back to you in a few moments from now. In fact, we also have a reaction that is coming from the Chief of Staff, essentially on the elimination of the chief of Hezbollah that is now being claimed by Israel. Let's take a look.
זה לא סוף ארגז הכלים, זה צריך להיות מאוד ברור. יש עוד כלים קדימה ללכת, והמסר הוא מסר פשוט, מי שמאיים על אזרחי מדינת ישראל נדע להגיע בצפון, בדרום, גם במקומות יותר רחוקים. אנחנו בסופו של דבר, אחרי תקופה ארוכה של הכנה, של הרבה מאוד יכולות ללבנון, התחלנו לממש, גם התקיפה הזו הוכנה במשך זמן רב, היא יצאה בזמן הנכון, בצורה מאוד חדה, ואנחנו עכשיו עוברים להכין בצורה מאוד חדה גם את הדברים הבאים. בסופו של דבר, אני מדגיש עוד פעם, מוכנות C בכל הגזרות שלנו, כל הכוחות, כולל חבירה לארגונים האחרים, צריך להיות תיאום מאוד טוב, מוכנות מאוד טובה.
All right, I'm going to go straight across to my colleague Ashraf Vani, getting in those details right now. Ashraf is in Lebanon. He is in Beirut right now. Ashraf, this is a huge development, as has been announced by Israel. You hear, in fact, from them about the fact that this is elimination of the top rung of Hezbollah, with the chief today eliminated. He will no longer be able to terrorize the world, is what is now being said by Israel in that statement.
Yes, Saniha, this is a major development, what we are listening from the Israeli Defense Forces. But so far, the Hezbollah has not given any kind of statement. They take some time to issue these kind of killings of their commanders, and same can be done in case of the Supreme Leader and the Secretary General of Hezbollah, that is Hassan Nasrallah. Hassan Nasrallah is the topmost figure here in the Lebanon and highly respected, not among the Lebanese, particularly among the Hezbollah fighters and supporters, but also he has followers in Syria, in Iraq, and also in the Iran. His killing will be another level of escalation in this ongoing war between Israel and the proxies of Iran. Now, it is sure that Iran cannot remain the calm when Hassan Nasrallah is assassinated. They have already seen the assassination of the Hamas chief Ismail Haniya in their own capital, and now the Hassan Nasrallah's killing will be a big jolt, not only for the Hezbollah but also for the Iran. That is why all eyes on the further developments and the statements of Hezbollah. So far, what we are getting from the sources here in the Beirut is that we have the three family members of Hassan Nasrallah had been killed in Friday bombing in the suburbs of the Beirut, that is South Beirut, in which his daughter, her name is Zainab Nasrallah, she has been killed. One of his brothers has been killed, what the locals have said, but it has not been confirmed by the Hezbollah itself, and also another relative, maybe nephew of the Hassan Nasrallah. The area where this bombing took place, not only yesterday, but even today, there were some more missile strikes in the suburbs of the Beirut. 4 of them, and one even I captured on the India Today camera that we have shown to the rivers. It is not still clear that what damage they have caused in that area. But I had visited that area, the stronghold of Hezbollah, yesterday morning. There was very low movement of the people. Most of the Hezbollah fighters as well as their families had left that area to the safer areas. But during the last night when this bombing took place, almost all 95% population of the southern suburb of the Beirut have vacated from their homes for some safer locations around the safer locations in Beirut. These are the very fast developments taking place. But on other side, Saniha, Israel is not stopping its bombings, not only in the Beirut, but also we are getting reports that Bekaa Valley, which is on the border of Syria, that has been targeted again today on Saturday morning. Some houses got damaged there. Same is the story from the southern Lebanon, where I will be reaching after 2 or 3 hours. There are some reports of the missile strikes in Sur city and also the coastal city of Tyre in South Lebanon.
I just want to get a sense, Ashraf, from you. How do you see things rather escalating from here on? This, of course, after, if at all it does come in, Hezbollah's admission indeed that the top commander who led the group for 3 decades has finally been eliminated, because they continue to say that he is fine. They've been saying this, isn't it?
Yes, Saniha. Basically, this Hezbollah became a very powerful militia. There is no doubt that the Israel and the West call it as the terrorist organization. But here in the Lebanon and in the many countries of Gulf, people believe it as one of the forces fighting for their rights, particularly for the Palestinians. That is why yesterday, when there were reports that the Hezbollah headquarters has been targeted by the Israel, all the 3H, Houthis in Yemen, Hamas in Gaza, and Hezbollah in the Lebanon, in a unanimous way said that they are going to take revenge from Israel for this bombing. Still, the people here and also in the Middle East now want to see what kind of reaction will be from the Hezbollah. Hezbollah is a big force created during the last 3 decades. They fought the war of 2006 with Israel and gave a very tough battle to them, which resulted the vacation of the Israeli forces from the southern Lebanon. Otherwise, till 2006, it was occupied by the Israeli defensive forces. There are still those buildings and those barracks where the Israeli forces remained for the years together. But after the UN intervention, they left after settlement between the two countries. The French, the government was the main negotiator in those terms and conditions. And even today, with the Americans, French government is in a very much efforts to try to bring some kind of a pause, but that has been already rejected by Netanyahu and Israel, and even also by the Hezbollah. So in the coming days will be very tough in the region. This war could escalate, and if there could be, as the Netanyahu has himself stated in the United Nations, that these kinds of attacks and strikes on Hezbollah will continue unless and until Hezbollah is not completely destroyed here in Lebanon.
Military chain of command of the Hezbollah, the organization is completely eliminated, as it looks like, with the Secretary General, with the top boss getting eliminated today. Ashraf.
Yes, Saniha. Basically, we have seen during last 10 days, top leadership of the Hezbollah has been eliminated. First, it was Fawad Shukr, who was killed 1 month back in the same area of suburbs of the Beirut. Then 10 days back, there was another missile strike in which the rocket chief of the Hezbollah, Mohammed Ibrahim Qashi, was killed. Then on Thursday only, the Air Force chief and the drone technology expert, Mohammed Hassan Sururi, was killed. And on Friday, just after a few hours, 24 hours, now we are listening that which is claimed by the Israeli Defensive Forces, that the Secretary General and the Chief of Hezbollah has been eliminated. But Saniha, for our viewers and you, it is not easy to completely finish the organization or a militia or a terrorist group by eliminating its leaders and its commanders. We have seen same in the Gaza. Almost each leadership and every leader of the Hamas was eliminated by the Israeli forces, which is in a very low number as compared to Hezbollah. But despite that, after 11 months of war, after complete devastation of the Gaza, still the Hamas fighters are giving the tough times to the Israeli defensive forces, particularly Israeli army inside the Gaza. And same could be the matter here in the southern Lebanon and other parts of the Lebanon. Particularly, there is the border which is longer than 300 kilometers with Israel, and there are some points which are very strategic. If Israel, as they have said, that they are going to make ground invasion into the South Lebanon, they are preparing for it. If that thing continues or follows after this assassination, it will be a very tough time, not only for the Lebanese people, Hezbollah, but also for whole region of Middle East.
You know, what next is the big question. What about the second round, given that the military leadership, as we are showing our viewers right now on the screens, is completely eliminated? How will they regroup? Because as far as this development from today, if confirmed, if confirmed, by Hezbollah, which is unlikely, what next? How do they take this forward, given that escalation is expected, isn't it?
Actually, the number of fighters with Hezbollah is too much as compared to the other militias. It has a strong system of working like armies in the different countries. The fighters of Hezbollah are very much trained. They are being trained by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard commanders of Iran. They have all kinds of weaponry. They have all kinds of manuals and systems what the regular armies of different nations and countries have. So they can replace the leadership. But one jolt will be for the Hezbollah, that the way people unconditionally were supporting Hassan Nasrallah, that kind of support, whether the other leadership of the Hezbollah will get, that is the big question yet to be get answers.
All right, I'm going to thank you, Ashraf Fani, getting in those details there. From Beirut in Lebanon, Ashraf tracking all of those details as far as this big development from today is concerned, with an announcement being made by Israel that the top leader, the top military commander of Hezbollah has been eliminated. They've given out more details about how they carried out the strikes as well, talking about the fact that more than 80 tons of bombs were dropped on Nasrallah's bunker, is what is being said. More than 80 bombs were dropped here at the headquarters, says Israel in a statement that they've put out, where the organization's Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah was killed. An average weight of 1 ton of explosives per bomb. Bombs penetrating bunkers were also used, says Israel in a statement. Also has released drone, in fact footage, which is showing the strikes on Hezbollah weapons storage facilities. These are bunkers which have in fact come under the strikes. It's a big kill, says Israel, announcing the killing of Lebanese Hezbollah chief Nasrallah. This a day after an Israeli strike on the southern suburbs of Beirut, the Iran-backed Hezbollah is yet to issue any statement on the status of Nasrallah. It's led the group for over 3 decades. Israel claiming a major kill after Friday's airstrikes in Beirut and Lebanon. Israel Defense Force says it has indeed eliminated Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah. In a tweet posted on social media platform X, IDF has said Hassan Nasrallah will not be able to terrorize the world. The announcement comes after unprecedented 5-hour Israeli airstrikes on Beirut. On Friday, Israel said it targeted the central command headquarters of Hezbollah. At least 6 buildings were flattened in the attack. Israel says Hezbollah had been operating under residential buildings and using Lebanese people as human shields. We'll continue to get you more details on that story, even as Hezbollah continues to maintain that Nasrallah was alive after Friday's strike. Israel says that he stands eliminated. Big story we're tracking at Disa, Israel claiming a major kill after Friday's airstrikes in Beirut in Lebanon. The Israel Defense Force has confirmed that it indeed has eliminated the Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah. In a tweet posted on social media platform X, IDF has said, and I quote, Hassan Nasrallah will not be able to terrorize the world. The announcement comes after unprecedented 5-hour Israeli airstrikes on Beirut. On Friday, Israel said it targeted the Central Command headquarters of Hezbollah. At least 6 buildings were flattened in the attack. Israel says that Hezbollah had been operating under residential buildings and using Lebanese people, citizens, as human shields. Hezbollah, on its part, had claimed that Nasrallah was alive after Friday's strikes. It's yet to comment on Israel's fresh claim.
זה לא סוף ארגז הכלים, זה צריך להיות מאוד ברור. יש עוד כלים קדימה ללכת, והמסר הוא מסר פשוט, מי שמאיים על אזרחי מדינת ישראל נדע להגיע בצפון, בדרום, גם במקומות יותר רחוקים. אנחנו בסופו של דבר, אחרי תקופה ארוכה של הכנה, של הרבה מאוד יכולות ללבנון, התחלנו לממש, גם התקיפה הזו הוכנה במשך זמן רב, היא יצאה בזמן הנכון, בצורה מאוד חדה, ואנחנו עכשיו עוברים להכין בצורה מאוד חדה גם את הדברים הבאים. בסופו של דבר, אני מדגיש עוד פעם, מוכנות C בכל הגזרות שלנו, כל הכוחות, כולל חבירה לארגונים האחרים, צריך להיות תיאום מאוד טוב, מוכנות מאוד טובה.
And look at how the entire military chain of command of the Hezbollah has been completely eliminated. And that's what, Gaurav, makes today's development just so important. The Secretary General of Hezbollah has headed the organization for 3 decades, has been eliminated.
It's a big claim by Israel. The Israeli Defense Forces, so far, they've been on the ball when it comes to neutralizing the Hezbollah leadership, and it's as per plan that they've been moving forward. So the man whose image you see behind me is Hassan Nasrallah, the chief of the outfit, a Shia militia outfit called the Hezbollah, operating in Lebanon for decades. Now, in a moment, we'll actually show you that entire leadership of the organization that's now been neutralized. So right on top, Hassan Nasrallah, the Secretary General of Hezbollah. Well, Israel claims he will no longer terrorize the world. Very cryptic. Is it that they're still trying to ascertain whether he's dead or is he confirmed dead? They're waiting for a confirmation to come in from either the Hezbollah or the Lebanese government or Iran. Crucial. But look at the entire second line. And this is where Israel has scored a master stroke in neutralizing the threat to Israel. Ibrahim Aqil, head of Hezbollah operations, and he's the man who's heading the Radwa force. Radwa force was the biggest threat to Israel in its northern areas. In northern Israel, Ibrahim Aqil was taken out. Fuad Shukr, the highest ranking military commander of the Hezbollah terrorist organization and the head of its strategic assault unit, neutralized. Ali Karaki, commander of Southern Forces. Now, Hezbollah claimed he was injured but alive. Israel says Ali Karaki was also killed in airstrikes. Wasim Al-Tawli, commander of the Radwa force, again reporting directly to Ibrahim Aqil, he's been neutralized. Talib Sami Abdullah, commander of the Nasir unit, neutralized. Muhammad Nasir, commander of the Aziz unit, not neutralized. Now, these are all forces that are operating from the southern part of Lebanon and targeting the northern part of Israel. Some of these are also leaders of their military unit that handles drones and longer range missiles, like Muhammad Hussein Surur. Muhammad Hussein Surur had actually traveled to Yemen. In Yemen, he was training the Yemenis Houthi rebels to target Israel. The moment he came back, and that is what shows you how strong Mossad intelligence inputs were. He came back to his house, a 6-storied building, entered his house. That's when the rocket struck and he too was killed. The latest to be killed before Hassan Nasrallah. And that shows from the pager bombs that took out more than 1,500 fighters of Hezbollah to the top leadership. It seems this organization, this Shia militia, will really have to regroup if it wants to remain a potent threat to Israel.
All right, Gaurav, be with us. I'll just come back to you in a moment from now. Meanwhile, we have some news which has just come in. Let's take a look at these developments. Iran is now calling for an urgent meeting of the OIC. Now, Iran has been trying to persuade the countries associated, obviously, with the OIC to, in fact, impose sanctions against Israel. This is the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. An Iranian plane headed to Beirut has turned around. Lebanon's transportation minister bans the entry of all Iranian aircraft, is what we know. Iran is in constant touch and contact with Hezbollah and other regional allies to determine the next step following Nasrallah's killing, is what sources have told Reuters. We're reporting, in fact, from what Reuters is indicating as far as Iran's next steps are concerned. I'll be going across to Ashraf Bani also for more details on that. Ashraf is with us from Beirut in Lebanon. Gaurav continues to be with us here in the studios. Our Foreign Affairs Editor Geeta Mohan also. Geeta, but expected, given that Iran has been trying to persuade countries of the OIC to impose sanctions against Israel, and this has been an ongoing process, isn't it?
Well, that's right. Even at the United Nations General Assembly, which is underway even today, and yesterday the Israeli Prime Minister himself was there. There has been immense pressure from the international community, which not only includes adversaries but allies as well, such as the United States of America, who have come out and said that this escalation is not something that the international community is okay with, that they wanted talks and diplomacy. That's the only way forward, because they're looking at now a massive escalation at a time when Israel in some time would require a lot of support from the United States of America. There have been announcements from America with regards to aid and various other support structure for Israel, but whether if that is going to also translate into weapons and how much of it is something we'll have to wait and see, because there again has been immense pressure on the international community not to provide weapons to Israel. So how long can the ammunition and artillery of the Israeli forces last? Should the international community really call for a boycott? That's a very, very serious question, something that has been discussed and has been reiterated over and over again. If you look at the statements, while the Sunni Arab world, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE have come out and have always condemned Hezbollah, they have always stood against Hezbollah. No love lost there. But they've also come out and very clearly said and stood against the Israeli actions. They are very, very important allies and strategic partners of the United States of America and the West. And the West cannot ignore calls from countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar. The reason why we are seeing a lot of pressure, but it doesn't seem like Israel is paying heed to these pressures. For them, this is an existential crisis. So they're going ahead with what they want to do and how they wish to carry out and execute their plans.
All right.
The story, Sneha, over here will soon also shift to, and the focus should also be on the civilian crisis that faces the region. We've seen what happened in Gaza, but what is happening in Lebanon as we speak. Ashraf has been reporting of the civilian humanitarian crisis as well. That's going to be very large too, and that certainly will put more pressure on the international community and from there on to Israel as to how the situation on the ground is going to be handled.
Okay.
The fate of the civilians in Lebanon absolutely is in unspeakable
yes,
terms.
I understand, but Geeta, Israel has already said that, we are not targeting the civilians here. If you're being used as human shields, then there is going to be a big problem. Gaurav, the statement has been made by Israel already saying that our war isn't against you, it's against Hezbollah.
This double speak of a major part of the world stands exposed today. Yes, nobody wants civilians to die, but nobody also wants Israeli civilians to die. And Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu at the United Nations General Assembly made it very clear. They stand for peace, but they also want their people to return, their hostages to be returned. And this is where the United Nations needs to mount pressure.
We have, in fact, this news coming in, and we have to, in fact, tell our viewers about this big development. Iran leader Ali Khamenei has been moved to a secure place, is what we know. Hezbollah chief dead. Iran leader moved to a safe house, and they're moving fast here. Gaurav.
Well, this just goes on to show how petrified, Iran right now is. The fact that Ismail Haniyeh was neutralized near or in the presidential palace compound goes on to show how deep the penetration of Mossad is in Israel. If it can take out Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, if it can take out Hassan Nasrallah in Beirut, of course subject to confirmation from Hezbollah in Iran, the fact that the entire second-run leadership of Hezbollah has been neutralized, the fact that those pager attacks took down about 1,000-odd fighters of Hezbollah goes on to indicate that Israel is moving as per plan. Now, when people say what Israel is doing is wrong, Israel did not initiate this conflict on the 8th of October, 7th of October. It was the Hamas that attacked Israel is point one. Point two, it's the Hezbollah that came to Hamas' aid and targeted the northern parts of Israel, in which several civilians were killed in Israel. And according to Israeli intelligence agencies, that story that India Today also broke, that Israel was about to be attacked by Hezbollah is what Israeli intelligence said. And this was a preemptive strike by them. So if there is pressure on Israel, there should be equal amount of pressure that Israel is mounting on world or several countries to target Hamas, to target Hezbollah. There cannot be a free run given to terror, is the point that Israel continues to make continuously. It's fighting an existential war, is what they say.
Gaurav, how do you see this escalating even further? In fact, I'll just come back to you in a moment from now. Gaurav, be with us. A quick question to also Ashraf Ani, who is in Beirut right now. Ashraf, give us an idea about how things look like. We know about the kind of devastation that the airstrikes, 5 of them, unprecedented yesterday, have caused. Give us an idea about the current situation.
Sariha, current situation is very tense across the Lebanon, particularly after the rumors which are going currently on that probably Hassan Nasrallah has been killed in yesterday's Israeli strike in the suburbs of Beirut. This is the big development, not only for the Israel, but also here for the Lebanese, for the Hezbollah, for the Iran, for the Houthis, for the Hamas. Actually, on the 7th of October, when this war started, when the Hamas attacked the Israel on the southern border and then make not only the number of people hostages, but killed more than 1,200 Israelis inside the Israel. That was a big bolt on the Mossad, the intelligence agency, premier intelligence agency of the world, as well as on the Israeli army. On the 8th of October, when the war started between the Hamas and the Israel, Netanyahu made it clear that we have goals, we have to achieve them. These goals were to completely destroy Gaza, to completely destroy Hamas, and to bring back all those hostages who were taken by the Hamas. But it is the reality. Almost 1 year has passed. Israel could not bring back by force all those hostages who are still in the captivity of the Hamas. And
all right, we'll just in fact connect with Ashraf also in a moment from now. Ashraf continues to be with us. Gaurav also, in fact, continues to be with us. Gaurav, how do you see things moving from here on as far as escalation is concerned?
So there will be tremendous pressure globally on all sides to pipe down. But it remains, what kind of a response do we see? One, from Iran. Because it's Iran, that's that country, very, very strong country that actually controls the Hamas, the Hezbollah, the Houthi rebels. The Houthis have been armed with longer range missiles, we are told. Also remains to be seen how Russia, what role Russia plays in this entire conflict, overtly or covertly. What role is played by countries like Syria or rebels in Syria. So all of this, will decide the next course of action. Will Israel carry out a ground offensive immediately, or will it continue to pound this entire belt? Because it wants the Hezbollah to move back beyond, the Litani River. So they want them to move back about 30-odd kilometers. Is that their only aim, or do they have a bigger aim? And that's to decimate the Hezbollah as a fighting force, which is over 100,000 strong in terms of fighting men, and about 150,000 strong in terms of the rockets and missiles that they have. They remain a very potent fighting force, is what inputs seem to indicate, despite the top leadership being neutralized. Their communication system momentum has been hampered to a large extent, but they remain a fighting force. The fact that they were able to respond with a rocket attack into Israel even today goes on to show that they may be down, they're clearly not out.
Geeta, your sense as to how things will move forward from here, the capacity to regroup and strike back in spite of the leadership being completely eliminated here?
Sneha, could you please repeat the question?
I was asking you about how do you think Hezbollah is going to be regrouping in the next few days to come, given that Gaurav indicated that there is, they could be down, but clearly they aren't out, that they responded with a rocket strike even today itself.
Well, that's right. We were just speaking to Sarit Zahawi a while ago, a Hezbollah expert, Sneha, and she did say this very clearly, that there is a second in command. There are some leaders who've still not been eliminated, very, very important ones at that, and they will be taking control of the situation. So in the coming days, you will see rocket fired from Lebanese soil into Israel. You will see missile strikes from Lebanon into Israel. And you will see Hezbollah, maybe they will take time, but you will see them regroup. Again, like Sarit said, that there is no absolute elimination of any organization. They can rename, regroup, call themselves something else. But there's certainly elements on the ground who would continue this fight. How they regroup is the question. How strong would they be is yet another question. And how capable would they be in terms of their capabilities despite the proximity? Yet another question that really needs to be answered.
Right. I'm going to thank you for the moment, Geeta.